The House on Hollow Hill. In a remote town nestled between rolling hills and dense woods stood a house with a reputation so sinister it had earned the name the House on Hollow Hill. Built in the late 1800s by the enigmatic Lambert family, the mansion had witnessed decades of tragedy. Fires, mysterious deaths, and whispers of occult rituals plagued its history. By the mid-1900s, it was abandoned, left to decay as locals spread stories of the horrors within. Despite the warnings, the house attracted curiosity seekers, adventurers, and skeptics. Few who entered returned, and those who did refused to speak of what they saw. Chapter 1: The Invitation. One chilly October evening, four college friends, Sarah, Matt, Kim, and Ryan, sat around a campfire. Sarah had brought up the legend of Hollow Hill, her voice tinged with excitement. "We should go," she said, her eyes gleaming. "Just for a night. Let's see if it's really as haunted as everyone says." Kim immediately shook her head. "No way. Do you know how many people have disappeared there?" "Exactly why we should go," Sarah countered. "We'll prove it's all just stories. Besides, Matt's got a drone, and I've got my camera. It'll be fun." Ryan, ever the thrill-seeker, grinned. "I'm in." "What about you, Matt?" Matt hesitated, but he didn't want to seem like a coward. "Sure," he said. "But we stick together, and we leave if things get weird." Kim groaned, reluctantly agreeing. By midnight, they had packed their gear and piled into Ryan's car, heading toward Hollow Hill. Chapter 2: Arrival. The drive was uneventful until they turned onto the overgrown road leading to the mansion. Trees loomed overhead, their branches intertwining to block out the moonlight. The air grew colder, and an unnatural silence fell over the group. When the house finally came into view, it was worse than they'd imagined. The once grand mansion was now a skeletal structure, its windows shattered and walls covered in ivy. The front door hung askew, creaking softly in the wind. "This place is a death trap," Kim muttered. "Literally." "Come on," Sarah said, her excitement undeterred. "Let's set up inside." They entered cautiously, the floorboards groaning beneath their weight. The air inside was heavy, carrying a faint smell of rot. Dust floated in the beam of their flashlights as they explored the foyer, its faded wallpaper peeling like old skin. "Creepy," Ryan whispered, aiming his flashlight at a portrait hanging crooked on the wall. It depicted a stern-looking man with piercing eyes. Beneath it, a plaque read, "Victor Lambert, 1879. Kim shuddered. "He doesn't look like someone you'd want to meet." Chapter 3: The Seance. As the night wore on, the group explored deeper into the house. They found rooms filled with decaying furniture, a library with books so old they crumbled at a touch, and a basement door sealed with rusted chains. Sarah recorded everything, narrating their findings like a ghost hunter. In one of the upstairs rooms, they discovered a large oak table with a dusty glass orb at its center. Surrounding the orb were strange symbols etched into the wood. "This is where they held seances," Sarah said, her voice trembling with both fear and excitement. "Let's try it," Ryan suggested with a mischievous grin. "No way," Kim snapped. "That's crossing the line." "Oh, come on," Sarah said, sitting at the table. "It's just for fun." Reluctantly, the others joined her, forming a circle around the table. They placed their hands on its surface as Sarah recited a makeshift invocation she'd memorized from an old book. "If there are any spirits here, show us a sign." The room fell silent. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the glass orb began to glow faintly, and the temperature plummeted. The group froze as a soft whisper filled the room, too faint to understand. "Did you hear that?" Ryan asked, his voice shaky. Before anyone could respond, the table shook violently, and the whisper turned into a guttural growl. The group jumped back as the glass orb shattered, sending shards flying across the room. Chapter 4: The Basement. "We need to leave," Kim said, her voice trembling. But Sarah was staring at the shattered orb, her expression unreadable. "No. We have to keep going. Whatever's here doesn't want us to." "That's exactly why we should leave," Matt said, but Sarah was already heading toward the basement door. The others reluctantly followed, their flashlights casting long shadows on the walls. Sarah pried the rusted chains off the door, revealing a staircase that descended into darkness. The air was damp and cold, and the smell of decay grew stronger with every step. At the bottom, they found a large room filled with strange artifacts, bone fragments, melted candles, and symbols painted on the walls in what looked like dried blood. At the center of the room was a stone altar. "This is where they performed rituals," Sarah whispered, filming the scene. Ryan shined his flashlight on the altar. "What's that?" A book rested there, its cover made of cracked leather. Sarah picked it up, flipping through its yellowed pages. The writing was in an unfamiliar language, but the illustrations were clear, dark, twisted figures, and horrifying scenes of sacrifice. "We shouldn't be here," Kim said, her voice rising. "Put that down, Sarah." But Sarah ignored her, captivated by the book. As she read aloud a passage, phonetically, the room grew darker, the shadows on the walls writhing like living things. Chapter 5, The Haunting. The moment Sarah finished the passage, a deafening scream echoed through the basement, followed by the sound of footsteps, heavy, deliberate, and approaching fast. "Run!" Matt shouted. The group bolted up the stairs, but the house had changed. The walls seemed closer, the hallways longer and darker. The air buzzed with a malevolent energy, and the sound of footsteps followed them, always just out of sight. Ryan tripped, his flashlight clattering to the floor. When he looked up, his face turned white with terror. "Behind you!" They turned to see a figure emerging from the darkness. It was Victor Lambert, his gaunt face twisted into a grotesque grin. His hollow eyes locked onto Sarah. "You shouldn't have read it," he rasped. The group screamed and ran, splitting up in their panic. The house seemed alive, its walls shifting to trap them. Doors slammed shut, and whispers filled the air, growing louder and more frantic. Chapter 6, One by One. Ryan was the first to disappear. The others heard his scream echo through the house, followed by silence. Kim and Matt found each other in the library, trembling as they barricaded the door. "Where's Sarah?" Kim whispered. "I don't know," Matt said, his voice shaking. "We have to find her and get out of here." But Sarah was in the foyer, standing before the portrait of Victor Lambert. Her eyes were vacant, her lips moving silently as she clutched the book to her chest. "You called us," Victor's voice echoed from the walls. "Now, you belong to us." Epilogue. Weeks later, local authorities found the abandoned car near Hollow Hill, but no sign of the group. The only clue was Sarah's camera, left on the mansion's porch. The final recording showed Sarah's face, her eyes wide with terror as she whispered, "We shouldn't have come. Don't come here." The screen went black, but faintly, in the background, Victor Lambert's portrait seemed to move. The house on Hollow Hill remained standing, waiting for its next visitors. And the whispers never stop.